Crash on Xylan 9. The sky above the frozen planet Xylan 9 was dark and full of falling fire. A human dropship, damaged and burning, roared through the atmosphere. Inside, Sergeant Jason Hart held on tight, trying to control the ship. Sparks flew. Around him, the control screen blinked red. He had no time to think, only to survive. "Come on, just hold together," he shouted. The ship smashed into the snowy surface with a loud crash. Metal bent, fire hissed, and then silence. Jason woke up with pain in his ribs and blood on his face. The cold wind hit him like a wall. He crawled out of the wreckage, coughing. Around him, there was nothing but white snow and ice. No trees, no buildings, no signs of life. His hands were shaking. He tapped the come link on his wrist. Heart 2. Command, anyone reading me? Repeat. Heart 2 static. No response. Jason looked up. The sky was cloudy. No sun, only the red glow of Xylan's dying moon. "Great," he muttered. "Stranded, alone, enemy planet." He grabbed his survival pack and scanned the area. The war between humans and the Xylar aliens had made this planet a battlefield. He knew the enemy might be close. He had to stay alert. Stay alive. As he walked through the snow, he saw smoke rising in the distance. Maybe another crash? Another human? Or, he moved carefully, blaster in hand. The smoke led him to a broken escape pod. It wasn't human-made. This was Xylar tech, smooth, silver, and organic-looking. A small pod, maybe for one passenger. Jason's muscles tensed. Enemy. He stepped closer, boots crunching in the snow. The pod's door was half open. Inside, it was quiet. Then he heard something. A small sound. A whisper, like a voice. He raised his blaster. "Come out." No reply. He looked inside. In the shadows, he saw her, an alien girl, curled up, shaking from the cold. Her skin was pale silver, her hair white like snow. She was bleeding from her arm, and her eyes were half closed. She looked scared, weak. Jason's finger hovered over the trigger. One shot. That's all it would take. But then, she spoke. So soft, so cold. "Will you share your warmth with me, human?" Jason blinked. What? He looked at her again. She wasn't holding a weapon. She wasn't trying to attack. She looked young, maybe his age, maybe younger. And she was freezing. He had every reason to kill her. She was the enemy, a Xylar, but something in her voice. It didn't sound like war. It sounded like pain. Jason lowered his blaster, just a little. "You speak English?" She nodded slowly, her lips turning blue. Translator. Chip. Double quotes. The wind howled louder. Snow hit his face. Jason looked around. They would both die if they stayed out here. He sighed, cursing under his breath. This is a bad idea. He stepped into the pod, pulled out his heat blanket, and covered her with half. He sat beside her, wrapping the rest around himself. She looked up at him, eyes wide. "Help me." Jason didn't know the answer. Maybe he didn't want to be alone. Maybe he just saw someone who needed help. He stared out into the snow. "I don't know," he said. Hours passed. The storm outside got stronger. Inside the pod, it was warmer, but not by much. She slept, breathing softly. Jason checked his blaster. Still working. Still charged. He kept his eyes on her. One wrong move, and he was ready, but she didn't move. She just shivered in her sleep. Jason looked at her face. Alien. Strange, but not a monster. Not evil. He remembered the stories from Command. The Xylar were killers, heartless, cold. But this girl? She had asked for warmth, not war. In the quiet, Jason finally asked, "What's your name?" She opened her eyes slowly. "Illyra." "Jason," he replied. They stared at each other. No more words. Just silence, and the sound of wind outside. In the cold heart of a war-torn planet. Two enemies sat side by side, not with guns, but with shared warmth. Neither of them knew what would happen tomorrow. But tonight, for the first time, they were not enemies, just survivors. Enemies in a cave, a fragile truce the storm had passed. But silence was not peace. Jason opened his eyes slowly. The inside of the alien escape pod was dark and cold. The heat blanket had stopped working. His back ached from the hard floor. Beside him, Alira lay too still. He checked her pulse. Faint, but she needed warmth, real warmth. Or she would die. Jason stood up, groaning. The wind outside had calmed, but the cold still bit like a knife. He looked around. If he stayed here, they'd both freeze. But if he moved, they could be seen. He made a choice. He lifted Alira gently into his arms. She was light as a feather, her silver skin pale like ice. "Don't die on me now, alien," he muttered. "I didn't risk my life last night just to bury you today." He walked through the snow, scanning the horizon. In the distance, a dark crack split the white mountain, a cave. Inside the cave, it was dry but not warm. Jason laid Alira down, started a small fire with his survival kit, and wrapped her again in the blanket. The firelight flickered on the stone walls, throwing shadows that moved like ghosts. He sat across from her and finally breathed out. Safe, for now, but peace was short. Suddenly, Alira gasped and sat up, eyes wide, breathing fast. "No, don't take me. I'm not a weapon," she shouted, her voice echoing in the cave. Jason jumped to his feet, hand on his blaster. "Hey, it's okay, you're safe." Alira looked around, confused. Her eyes locked onto him. She backed away. "You brought me here?" "You were freezing to death." She stared at the fire. Her hands were shaking. "You should have left me." Jason shook his head. "I don't leave people to die, even if they're aliens." There was silence. Then softly, Alira spoke. "I'm not a soldier." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Really?" "Because your people shot down my ship. I was trying to run away from them." Jason sat back down, watching her carefully. "Why?" She didn't answer at first. Then, in a whisper, "Because I know what they did to start this war." Jason narrowed his eyes. "What do you mean?" Before she could speak again, a strange sound echoed through the cave. Click, click. Jason stood up. "What was that?" Alira's face turned pale. "It followed us." From the darkness of the deeper cave came a low growl. "Not human. Not ZYLAR. Something else." Jason grabbed his blaster, stepping in front of Alira. "Get behind me." A shadow moved on the wall. Long arms, sharp claws, glowing eyes. Jason aimed. His hands were steady now. The creature stepped closer, sniffing, hungry. Alira whispered, "It's called a drouth. Cave predator. It hunts warmth." Jason's heart pounded. Great. First an alien war, now a monster. The creature charged. Jason fired. The blast hit its shoulder, but it didn't stop. It leaped. Jason tackled Alira, rolling to the side as claws scraped the stone. The fire scattered. Darkness swallowed the cave. In the pitch black, Jason heard Alira whisper, "We have to move. There's a tunnel behind that wall." "Lead the way," Jason said, reloading. They ran, ducking low. The Drelf roared behind them, crashing into walls. They slipped into the tunnel just as the creature lunged and hit stone. For now, they were safe. They stopped deep in the tunnel, breathing hard. Jason looked at her, both of them sweating despite the cold. He laughed. "Just a little. Still think I should have left you to freeze?" Alira smiled weakly. "Maybe not." Jason nodded. For the first time, they both smiled, not as enemies, as survivors. The silent predator hunted the cave was quiet now. Too quiet. Jason sat near the fire, staring into the flickering flames. The creature the Drelf had left, but only for now. He knew it was still out there, watching, waiting. Behind him, Illyra sat with her arms wrapped around her knees. She had not spoken much since they escaped into the deeper tunnels that Jason broke the silence. "You okay?" She nodded, but her face said otherwise. "You said it hunts warmth. Why didn't it follow us?" Illyra answered slowly. "It's patient. It waits. It learns. If we light another fire, it will find us again." Jason sighed. "So we freeze, or we burn and die." Illyra didn't laugh. "There is a third option." Jason looked at her. "We keep moving." They walked through narrow stone tunnels. The air grew colder, the light dimmer. Jason's flashlight flickered. Then it died. Illyra touched the wall and whispered something in her own language. A soft glow appeared from strange moss on the rocks, lighting the way with pale green light. Jason stared. "How did you do that?" "It listens," she said. "This planet. It listens more than it speaks." Jason frowned. "You sound like a poet." Illyra gave a small smile. "My people weren't always at war. Once we were dreamers." They reached a wide chamber deep underground. In the center stood an old stone pillar, alien symbols carved into it, glowing softly. Jason scanned it. "This isn't just a cave. It's some kind of temple." Illyra stepped forward, brushing dust off the symbols. "My ancestors lived here, before the war. Before humans ever came. This place is forbidden now." "Why?" She looked down. "Because it holds truth, and truth is dangerous." Jason raised his blaster slowly. "What kind of truth?" Illyra turned. "The kind that got me hunted by my own people." Suddenly they heard it again, a faint scratching sound. Jason turned sharply. Illyra whispered, "It's here." Jason backed toward her. "We need to get out of this room." But the only exit was the one they came through, and something was now standing in that tunnel. The DRL. It didn't growl this time. It didn't roar. It just watched them. Its long claws scraped the stone. It stepped forward slowly. "Carefully." Jason whispered, "Don't move." But Illyra stepped forward. "What are you doing?" Jason hissed. She raised her hand. "I've seen one of these before. It's not just a beast. It's intelligent." Jason stared. "What?" Illyra closed her eyes and began to hum a soft tone, deep and slow, like a forgotten song. The creature tilted its head. Then it stopped moving. Illyra opened her eyes and whispered, "It feels fear, like we do. It only kills what runs." Jason couldn't believe it. "You're telling me we've been running from something we could have just talked to?" Illyra turned to him. "No, I'm saying it doesn't hunt to kill. It hunts what the war left behind. Noise, anger, fire, hate." Jason lowered his blaster. "Then how do we make it leave?" Illyra pointed to the pillar. "By finishing the story." She walked to the pillar and pressed her hand against the final symbol. The entire room lit up. Images floated in the air, holograms of a past Jason had never seen. Humans and Zealer working together, sharing technology, smiling. Jason whispered, "This is fake, right?" Illyra shook her head. "It's real. A long time ago, we were allies. Then what happened?" "A lie," she said, voice shaking. "A false attack. Blame, revenge, everything was twisted. And people forgot." Jason stared at the images. "If people saw this, they'd kill me before I could show them," Illyra said. "That's why I ran." Behind them, the Drelf made one last sound, a soft, echoing growl. Then it turned and walked away. Jason watched it vanish into the shadows. "Why did it leave?" Illyra answered, "Because the fire inside us went out. We stopped being a threat." Jason didn't know what to say. His whole life had been war, orders, survival. Now, truth felt heavier than a gun. He turned to Illyra. "Why are you telling me this?" She looked him in the eyes. "Because you didn't kill me when you had the chance." In the cold silence of the cave, Jason felt something shift inside him. Not trust. Not yet, but something close. He offered her his canteen. We keep moving together. Illyra nodded. They walked into the darkness once again. Hunted no more. But not safe yet. Signals and secrets. Who can you trust? Jason adjusted the signal transmitter with shaking fingers. It was old, dented, and half frozen, but it still blinked. A single red light. A heartbeat in the dark. They had climbed to a high ridge, cold, exposed, but with a clear view of the sky. It was their best chance to send a message, and their worst chance of staying hidden. Jason looked up. Above them, space was endless. Somewhere out there, someone might hear. He pressed the button. This is Sergeant Jason Hart, human survivor. Crashed on Xylon 9. I have one alien with me, non-hostile. Request immediate pickup. He paused. Then added, and I found something. Something you need to see. The signal sent. One flash. Then silence. Illyra stood a few steps away, arms crossed. You shouldn't have done that. Jason turned. Why? You want to die here? I don't. She looked at the sky, her eyes cold. They won't help you. Not after what you told them. Jason frowned. I didn't say everything. But you said enough, she replied. Jason stepped closer. They're my people, Illyra. If they see the truth, they'll stop the war. No, she said quietly. They'll kill me first, then erase the message. Jason stared at her. You think humans are monsters? Illyra shook her head. No, I think governments are. They found shelter in an old communications bunker buried under ice. It still had walls, a roof, and barely working lights. Inside, Jason wiped frost from a broken screen. It flickered. Then came the voice. Hart. Copy received. Extraction in 6 hours. Sit tight. Jason smiled. Told you. Illyra didn't smile. They didn't ask who I was. They didn't ask if I was hurt. Jason hesitated. They'll see you're not a threat. She stepped back. You're still trusting the same people who started this war. The ones who lied to you your whole life. Jason looked away. Her words stung. Hours passed. Outside, the wind screamed across the frozen hills. Inside, the bunker was still. Jason sat in the corner, holding the glowing memory chip Illyra had given. Hymn recordings of the old temple, proof of peace between humans and Xylos long ago. He whispered, if this is true, we've been killing for nothing. Illyra sat across from him. Not nothing. For power, control, fear. Jason looked at her. Why tell me? You could have just run. She paused, then said softly, because I saw how you looked at me in the snow, like I was someone. Not something. Jason said nothing. But he understood. Suddenly, a light blinked on the radar screen. A ship, coming. Fast. Jason stood up. They're early. Illyra stood too. Too early. The ship wasn't slowing. Jason narrowed his eyes. They're not landing. They're scanning. He grabbed his blaster. That's not right. A voice cracked over the comms. Sergeant Hart, drop your weapon. You are harboring enemy intelligence. Prepare for cleansing protocol. Jason's blood ran cold. What the hell is cleansing protocol? Illyra whispered. They came to silence you and me. Jason turned to her. Run. They dashed out the back door of the bunker as the first strike hit. Fire and snow exploded behind them. The ground shook. Jason pulled Illyra behind a ridge. As the sky lit up with burning light, the humans weren't rescuing him. They were wiping the truth. Jason lay in the snow, breathing hard. He looked at Illyra scared, angry, alive. And he made his choice. We can't trust either side anymore. Illyra nodded. Now you see it. He held up the memory chip. Then we show the people ourselves. Rescue or revenge. The arrival of the fire in the sky was no accident. It was a warning. Jason and Illyra watched from a rocky ledge as 3 human warships hovered above the ice field. Their lights swept the ground like searching eyes. Dropships landed. Soldiers spread out like shadows in the snow. They were not here to rescue. They were here to erase. Jason tightened his grip on the memory chip. Inside his jacket, his chest burned. With anger and confusion. How many came? Illyra whispered beside him. Jason scanned the troops through his scope. Too many. They're not looking to talk. Illyra's voice was calm but sad. I told you, truth makes them afraid. Jason looked at her. They think I betrayed them. Illyra met his eyes. Did you? Jason didn't answer. They hid in a small ice crevice below the ridge, silent and cold. Snow fell gently, covering their tracks. Above them, soldiers shouted, scanned, and searched. Jason could hear a familiar voice through the soldiers' cums. A woman. This is Commander Rial. Heart is considered compromised. Use non-lethal force, unless provoked. Jason's jaw clenched. He knew that voice. She had trained him. Footsteps came close. A pair of soldiers stood just above their hiding. Spot. One of them said, You really think Hart turned? The other replied, He's traveling with a Ziller. That's enough. Jason closed his eyes. They won't listen. Not even a chance to explain. Beside him, Illyra whispered, We have to leave, now. Jason shook his head. No, not yet. He pulled out a small transmitter, a private channel to Rial. I have to try. Illyra grabbed his wrist. She won't hear you. Only what she's told to hear. Jason stared at her. Let me try once, he said. He pressed the button and spoke quietly. Commander Rial, this is Jason. I'm alive. I'm not brainwashed. I have something you need to see, something that could end this war. Silence. Then. Her voice replied cold, sharp. Jason, I trusted you. I trained you, and you chose her. Jason frowned. I didn't choose sides. I chose truth. Truth doesn't matter if you're dead. Then the signal cut. Above them, alarms blared. They'd been found. Jason and Illyra ran through the ice field as drones zipped through the sky. Blaster fire hit the snow behind them, exploding in clouds of white dust. Jason shouted, We head to the ice cliffs, harder to follow. Illyra kept pace, breathing hard. We won't make it without help. Suddenly, a loud screech echoed through the valley. A familiar sound. Jason turned. His eyes widened. The Drelf had returned, but it wasn't alone. There were 3 of them. Moving fast. Toward the soldiers. Illyra whispered. They followed the fire. The hate. The battlefield turned to chaos. Soldiers fired in panic. Drelfs roared and leaped through the snow. Jason and Illyra slipped through the madness, unseen in the storm of claws and guns. They made it to a cave behind the cliffs, a narrow entrance, half covered in ice. Jason collapsed inside, breathing heavily. Illyra dropped beside him. They were alive. For now. Jason looked at her. You okay? Illyra nodded, then looked at him seriously. You can't protect me forever. Jason didn't answer. You're going to have to choose. I already did, he said. He pulled out the chip. I'm not running anymore. Just then, a figure entered the cave. Weapon raised. Commander Rial. She stared at Jason, then at Illyra. Her eyes were cold. You led my soldiers into a death trap. Jason stood slowly. I didn't lead anyone. You followed fear. Rial raised her gun. Hand over the alien and the chip. Jason stepped in front of Illyra. No, Rial's voice didn't change. You're making a mistake, soldier. Jason looked at Illyra, then back at his former commander. I've made worse, he said. He threw the chip to the ground and stepped on it, shattering the casing, revealing the real memory core inside. Glowing bright blue. Jason held it up. If you want it, you'll have to shoot me. Rial stared at him. Her hand shook slightly. Then she lowered her weapon. The frozen truth. Illyra's gift. The wind outside howled like a ghost. Inside the cave, no one spoke. Jason stood still, the glowing memory core in his hand. Commander Rial stood across from him, weapon lowered but not holstered. Her eyes flickered. With doubt. Or fear. Illyra sat quietly in the corner, hands wrapped around her arms. She looked calm but not safe. Jason broke the silence. You didn't shoot. Rial looked at him sharply. Don't make me regret it. Jason pointed to the memory core. You need to see what's inside. It's not just about Illyra, it's about the war. The lie we've all been living. Rial stepped forward slowly. Show me. Jason inserted the core into his portable scanner. The hologram glowed to life between them. It showed images shifting fast. A Ziller council shaking hands with human diplomats. A shared research station in orbit. Peace agreements. Then explosions, screaming, ships burning. And finally classified files. Redacted. Human and Ziller governments both hiding the truth. Jason looked at Rial. It was never an attack. It was sabotage. Someone wanted this war. Rial stared at the hologram. Her face was unreadable. I've never seen this, she said. Illyra spoke softly from the corner. Because you were never meant to. Jason turned to Illyra. This is what you were trying to show me all along. She nodded. My people buried the truth because they were afraid. Your people. Because they were angry. Jason looked down at the glowing blue core in his hand. And now we're both hunted because we remembered what they wanted us to forget. Rial backed away slowly. Even if this is real, it doesn't matter. Truth doesn't win wars. Guns do. Jason stepped toward her. Then maybe it's time to stop fighting. Rial paused, then turned and walked out of the cave, disappearing into the storm. Hours passed. Jason and Illyra sat near a small flame. Deep in the cave, the silence between them was not heavy, it was peaceful. For the first time since his crash, Jason felt still. Illyra broke the quiet. There's something I haven't told you. Jason looked up. What now? She reached into a pouch on her belt and pulled out a small crystal, glowing faintly blue. This, she said, is my gift. Jason frowned. What is it? She placed it in his hand. It's a living power cell. One of the last of its kind. My people used them to heal planets, to restore life. But we stopped when the war began. Jason stared at it. Why give it to me? Illyra's voice was quiet. Because you chose to protect me when you didn't have to. Jason blinked. But this could save your people. Illyra nodded. Or it could save everyone. Suddenly, a soft tremor shook the ground. Jason looked up. What was that? Illyra stood. They're coming. Not your soldiers. Not my kind. Jason's hand went to his blaster. Then who? Illyra's face was pale. The ones who started the war. Will you share your warmth? The final stand. The sky above Xylan 9 was burning. Not with war, but with arrival. Jason stood on a frozen hilltop, wind howling around him. The blue crystal. Illyra gave him pulsed softly in his chest pocket. Below, armies were gathering. On one side, human soldiers. On the other, Ziller warships. Between them, nothing but cold air. In him, Jason had called for them both, not to fight, but to listen. Illyra walked up beside him, her breath visible in the air. They won't listen, she said. Jason looked straight ahead. Then they'll have to watch. He stepped forward, alone. Down the hill. Between the armies, the humans aimed their weapons. The Xylars activated their armor. Jason raised both hands in the air. No weapons. No lies, his voice echoed. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the memory core. Then the blue crystal. He held them both up, arms outstretched. I have truth in one hand, he shouted, and healing in the other. And still, you brought guns. A sharp sound rang out, the heavy crunch of boots on ice. Commander Rial stepped out from the human line. No helmet. No rifle. Just her voice. Jason Hart, You are out of line. Jason turned to her. No, I'm exactly where I should be. She hesitated. He walked toward her, slow, careful. You trained me to follow orders, he said. But you also taught me to think, to feel. That's what makes us human, right? Rial's eyes narrowed. She's still the enemy. Jason looked back at Illyra. She's the only reason I'm alive. From the Zealer side, a group stepped forward, tall, silver, armored. One of them spoke in a cold voice. Return the girl, and we will spare you. Illyra stepped forward, past Jason. Her voice shook. You fear me because I remember peace, because I carry it. She held up the crystal, and I choose to give it. She turned to Jason. Will you share your warmth with me, again? Jason didn't speak. He took her hand. In that moment, something changed. Not in the sky, but in the people. The soldiers began to lower their weapons, on both sides, one by one. No command given. No shot fired. Just silence. And stillness. Then from the horizon, a rumble. The ground cracked. Jason turned. Illyra gasped. Ships appeared, dark, smooth, and unlike anything either army had ever seen. A third force. Unknown. Unmarked. They descended like shadows, fast and deadly. The true enemy. Jason shouted. Get back! Everyone get! A blast shook the field. Ice shattered. Soldiers fell. Jason grabbed Illyra, covering her as fire rained from the sky. Chaos returned, but this time, both sides fought side by side. Not for power, for survival. Commander Rial tossed Jason a blaster. Guess you were right. He caught it, nodded. You still mad at me? Later, she said, firing at the alien machines. In the center of the battlefield, Illyra knelt and pressed the crystal into the ice. Blue light spread like water. The ground shook again, but softer this time. The earth glowed. The air warmed. Jason stood in the center, Illyra by his side, their hands joined. He looked around. Soldiers, Zealer and humans, standing together, wounded, confused. But not shooting, not anymore. Illyra looked at him. Her voice was soft. You didn't just share warmth. Jason, you gave it. Jason smiled, tired but sure. Let's give it to everyone.